What's up guys, here at Vivid Racing today, we are working on another brand new VR Tune product. This time it's gonna be for the 2022 all new Toyota Tundra featuring the 3.5 liter twin turbo V6. To start out, this Tundra is completely bone stock aside from a mild leveling kit and of course our Vivid Racing DO7 wheels in satin bronze wrapped in the BF Goodwrench KM3 off-road tires. Today we are going to be working on our brand new V2 tuning box featuring the Bluetooth app control on the new 2022 Tundras. These do feature a brand new ECU that is not able to be ECU flash, so we can't do a full flash tune, so we are moving into our VR Tune tuning box. This is going to be an excellent solution to increase overall performance and boost. And we're ready to get started, so let's get this thing strapped down to the dyno and test some baselines. All right, we have wrapped up our stock baselines on the 2022 Toyota Tundra, and we've got some figures to go over from our dyno. Over here on our dyno graph, you can see we are displaying roughly 314 wheel horsepower and 373 foot-pounds of torque. Please keep in mind, this is on a Mustang dyno, and we are on 35-inch tires, so there is quite a bit of drivetrain loss. In addition to that, it is roughly 95 degrees right now in our dyno room. We are located in Arizona, and it's the middle of August, so it is pretty toasty. Now that our stock baselines are all wrapped up, it's time to get our VR Tune tuning box installed. We're gonna do a quick rundown on the install itself and some of the features. Now that we've got the tuning box all installed on the Tundra, we're gonna go over some of the sensor locations and where we mounted the box itself. Starting out, when you're doing this install, you're gonna lay out the harness. There's gonna be two different sensor locations that you're gonna be targeting. The first is gonna be your boost pressure sensor. This is located towards the center of the engine. It's extremely easy to access. On our harness itself, it features OEM connectors on both ends, so there is no cutting or splicing required. Simply disconnect the factory harness and tee our harness in on both ends. From there, we're gonna move into our manifold absolute pressure sensor, also known as a MAP sensor. This is gonna be located towards the back of the engine up against the firewall. Again, same exact process, disconnect the factory sensor and plug in our teed sensors with the factory style connectors. And after that, really you're just gonna start kind of tidying up the wiring with zip ties. We like to follow factory routing of other harnesses that are within the engine bay. This makes a really clean look and keeps everything safe. From there, we're gonna get to actually mounting the tuning box itself. With this, really you wanna just try to get it in basically the coolest part of the engine bay, away from the engine as much as possible, and also typically in a dry area. For the Tundra, we choose to actually use 3M double-sided tape and to mount it to the top of the fuse box. This is a good solution overall. When you do need to actually open the fuse box itself, you can simply unplug the tuning box and remove the whole thing as one. It doesn't get in the way at all, and it's also really easy to access and adjust there. Now that the install is all complete and we've gone over some of the wiring and how to mount it, it's time to run this thing on our dyno and see what we can do. All right guys, we have wrapped up our final dyno runs with the VR Tune V2 tuning box installed, and we've got some pretty phenomenal results to go over. Moving over to our dyno graph, this can be kind of deceiving to look at, so I'm gonna break it down for you. When you're looking at just peak versus peak horsepower, we're only seeing about a 20 wheel horsepower gain. However, that is definitely not the case when looking at the overall graph. You can see throughout the entire mid-range, we're experiencing a gain of roughly 60 to 55 wheel horsepower. Obviously, right at the very top end where peak versus peak is measured at roughly 5,300 RPM, that's where we're tapering down to just a 20 wheel horsepower gain. However, considering the Tundra is on stock smaller frame turbos, we are gonna see most efficiency in between 2,800 RPM and roughly 4,700 RPM. This is where we are consistently seeing 60 to 55 wheel horsepower, and then obviously tapering off towards the top end like we just discussed. Moving on from horsepower gains, this is where things get pretty crazy. The Tundra is actually producing over 100 foot-pounds of torque at 3,200 RPM and carrying a consistent 55 to 60 wheel torque all the way through the entire RPM range. It's pretty insane. I'll tell you right now, when this thing comes into boost with MAP 7 set up, it is extraordinarily improved over the factory settings. All right, now that we've gone over what the VR Tune tuning box can do, it's time to get this thing unstrapped and off the dyno so we can get into some testing out on the road. All right guys, we are out in the 2022 Toyota Tundra with a 3.5 liter twin turbo V6. First and foremost, we're just out to get some initial impressions of the factory performance performance, throttle response, and just how this thing feels. Right off the bat, I will say the 3.5 twin turbo V6 is pretty awesome. It definitely has a lot of throttle response, especially once it gets into boost. However, it does lack a bit of initial throttle response, and that's something we're hoping to really improve with the VR-Tune tuning box. In addition to our driving experiences before and after while we're out, we are going to test 0 to 60 with the Draggy, so we will have some live data on what this thing can do. So initial overall impression, it feels great. However, again, it is lacking a bit of throttle response. So with adjustments to boost, we should be able to create definitely some better acceleration, low to mid range, and hopefully also improve the top end. So we'll see. All right, we have wrapped up our 0 to 60 testing with the Draggy app. On setting 0, which is completely bone stock, the vehicle is producing a 0 to 60 of 7.44 seconds. With the VR-Tune tuning box set to setting 7, we are now down to 6.55 seconds. When launching the Toyota Tundra with the tuning box installed to setting 7, I can tell you right off the bat, there is a huge difference. This really is apparent as soon as you get over 20 miles an hour and it starts to go through the gears. Keep in mind, we did do this in 4 high, and I did brake boost the vehicle to roughly 2500 RPM before lifting off the brake. This is going to provide the absolute quickest 0 to 60 from what we've tested. One of the awesome features we have for our V2 tuning boxes is an optional Bluetooth control that you can use from any Android or iPhone. This is pretty cool because it does allow you to preset 3 different modes, an eco, sport, and race mode. Within this, you can switch between these without actually popping the hood or touching the tuning box at all. You can go into fine tuning and actually set the actual performance level of each mode. Obviously, you can set it to whatever you want. In addition to this, something that's pretty cool is we've got a warm-up timer setting down here. Basically, the way this works is every time you key the ignition on, once the vehicle has been off for a period of time, you can set the timer. So if we set this guy to 2 minutes right here, the actual performance of the tuning box is not going to become active, meaning the vehicle is going to be in stock setting until 2 minutes or 5 minutes or whatever you set it to. This allows the engine to come up to running temperature before the increased performance is added. All right, we are driving around with the VR-Tune tuning box set to setting 7. This is the most aggressive setting. Currently, we are on 91 octane. I can tell you right off the bat, the biggest difference is definitely that initial power and throttle response once the truck starts to come into boost around 2700 RPM. The initial hit and response itself, even if you're only at like a quarter throttle, is significantly more. And then from there, the other biggest thing is when you're wide open throttle, going through multiple gears, such as like if you were trying to merge onto the freeway pretty quick. In between each gear shift, when you are up to speed and you're starting to create more load as you're gaining speed and RPM, the increased performance overall really helps the power not fall on its head. So in other words, it's carrying peak boost through the higher RPM range as we saw in the dyno graph, and you can really feel that when you are wide open throttle and it is shifting into taller gears. Where before, when it's stock, it really starts to fall on its head after like 45 or 50 miles an hour. On setting 7, that is basically gone, and it continues to pull significantly harder. I mean, even all the way up to 90 to 100 miles an hour. All right, guys, we have wrapped up our testing and tuning with the 2022 Toyota Tundra. We've produced some pretty awesome results, and we've had a lot of fun with this platform. We can't wait to spend some more time with it. However, we hope that you guys enjoyed the video, learned some stuff about what is capable on this platform. Feel free to contact us at tuning@vividracing.com with any questions, or to purchase, go ahead and go to vividracing.com. Until next time, thanks for watching.